Friend, imagine a small office where the smell of paint hasn't yet dissipated, and a cup of coffee is standing next to it, beckoning you to it. The phone rings nonstop, and on the table are piles of papers with comics, like little treasures that no one appreciates yet. This is Marvel Studios in those days, still far from fame, still far from world box office records. Everything here was small, narrow, sometimes cramped, but the heart was beating wildly. People were saying, "This is impossible." Comics? Are they still interesting? The movie about them failed a long time ago. But someone on the team decided not to listen to those voices. They decided to take a risk. They decided to create something more than just movies. They wanted to create a world that would inspire. The first steps were difficult. Finances were hanging by a thread. Debts reached unprecedented figures, and the large Disney studio only raised its eyebrows skeptically. The team had doubts. Can we really do this? Will anyone even come to our film? But they worked day and night, rewriting scripts, planning every shot, coming up with costumes that would look alive on the screen. Every small victory, the first illustrations, the first animations, the first filming, became evidence that the dream was alive. I can imagine them sitting in that humble office, some throwing out ideas, some remaining silent, and some coming up and saying quietly, almost in a whisper, "We can do it. We just don't know how yet." And that little bit of faith, that unwavering commitment to an idea, became the spark that would later ignite a flame that would engulf the entire world. And at that moment, Marvel wasn't the studio that everyone knows. It was a team of people who didn't have the right to make mistakes, but they had the right to dream. They started small, but even then they saw a huge dream. This is a story about the beginning, about the smell of paint, the roar of printing presses, and the small sign under which a legend was born. This is a story about faith, even when everyone around you says it's impossible. And if you're ready, my friend, then ahead are crises, risks, and great victories. Because they are what form true heroes. Imagine a night office. The light of a lamp is reflected in the window. Behind it is a dark city street. On the table are bills, numbers that no one wants to see, and a sense of fear is growing within the team. Debts, failures of previous films, doubts of investors. It seems that the whole world is saying, "Give up." And then there is a meeting that can be described as a scene from a dramatic film. Everyone looks at the screen with the numbers, and everyone understands. If they don't find a solution, this office may not exist tomorrow. Someone whispers, "We're going bankrupt." And for a moment the room is silent. It feels like the very heart of the world has stopped. But instead of giving up, the Marvel team decides to fight back. They look for new ways to finance, abandon commercially safe but boring projects, and focus on creativity. Every small victory, a signed contract, an approved idea, a few positive reviews from fans, becomes proof that they are on the right track. This is when the true Marvel spirit shines through. Each team member is not just a worker, but a warrior who knows they could lose everything, but is not willing to give up on their dream. They learn to turn crisis into fuel. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Risk carefully, plan boldly. Don't be afraid to do the impossible. I can imagine the moment someone steps up to a whiteboard and draws the first outlines of Iron Man. And even on the darkest days, that little drawing shines like a ray of hope. It's a reminder that even in crisis, something beautiful can be created. The first crises almost broke Marvel, but they made the team stronger. They learned to take the hit, find solutions where others see only failure, and never lose faith in their own story. And it is from these dark days that the first steps towards great success are born. Because without struggle, without fear, without failure, it is impossible to experience true greatness. Imagine a morning street in Los Angeles. The air smells of coffee, gasoline, and a little bit of asphalt after a night of rain. In the small Marvel office, the smell of coffee is mixed with paint and burnt pages of scripts. There were no red carpets, world premieres, and billions at the box office. But there was already a feeling. It was time to act. The team is faced with a choice: make another safe film for a small audience or risk everything to change the rules of the game. And then a voice is heard, as if cutting through the silence of the office. We will make Iron Man, and we will do it right. These words sounded like a call, like the first blow of the hammer on the anvil of the future legend. But the risk was enormous. No one knew whether there would be enough money, whether the audience would come, whether the actors would agree to a role that seemed difficult and untested. Every day was like a tightrope walk. Every contract, every meeting with the producers was a test of courage. I can imagine the scene: a meeting in a small room. On the table are costume sketches, on the walls are script sketches, and on the faces of the people there is despair and at the same time a fierce belief. Someone says, "We can't afford to make a mistake." Another replies, "But if we don't take the risk, someone else will make the mistake, and we will never become a legend." The first steps forward included sleepless nights on set, endless dialogue reruns, and small victories. An actor finally capturing the essence of a character, a scene that worked both on screen and in the hearts of the audience. Each victory reinforced the belief that they weren't just making a movie, they were building a world that people hadn't seen before. And here comes another hook: the first public tests. The audience laughs where they planned, thinks where they didn't expect. The team's heart contracts and expands at the same time. At this moment, they understand they are on the right track. Their courage, their dedication, even all the mistakes and doubts, all this works for great success. And there were moments when everything could have gone to waste. Technical problems with special effects, scandals around the budget, criticism from people who didn't believe in comics. The sounds of computers freezing at the moment of the most important scene, a call with bad news from an investor, late-night discussions where every word could have been decisive. And still the team moved forward. These were Marvel's first steps into the world of cinema. And though they were small, they already had the spirit of what would become the cinematic universe. They learned that courage is more important than safety. Faith is stronger than doubt, and small victories pave the way for great success. And here is the moment that could be called a symbolic hook: the first frame of Iron Man on the screen, the sound of the reactor, the light cutting through the darkness, the face of the hero coming to life. The team stares at the monitor, holding their breath. There was no longer fear here, there was faith. They realized that everything they had done up to this point, all the crises, all the late-night meetings, all the doubts, was necessary to create this one frame that would change everything. The first steps forward were tiny, like small pebbles on the road. But they were solid, and each stone could become the foundation of a huge house. And Marvel kept going. Every day, every scene, every decision shaped the force that would later amaze the world. This is a story about faith, about risk, about the first bold step into the unknown. And if you imagine this moment with them, you can feel the same excitement that those people felt who decided not to listen to the doubters, but to create a legend with their own hands. Because that's how heroes are born, in the dark, under pressure, among problems, but with an immense belief that they can change the world. Imagine a large, bright room. The walls are covered with posters of heroes, the tables are littered with scripts, and the air smells of coffee, paint, and a little fear, because everyone here knows that the fate of the future is being decided now. Marvel has already taken the first steps, but now it's time to change everything. They realize that making movies separately is good, but not enough. The comic book world lives in a universe where characters intersect, where stories intertwine. Why not try to do the same on the screen? The idea seemed crazy. Critics laughed. It's too difficult. It will never work. But the Marvel team decided to take a chance. Imagine the first meetings to create the MCU, a cinematic universe where each film influences the next. Directors, writers, actors sit around the same table, boldly throwing out ideas, arguing even louder, sometimes almost shouting, but there is magic in the air. Every word, every sentence is a chance to create something unique. But there were problems. The budget was tight. The schedule was tight. The actors were busy with other projects. Fans were skeptical about the idea of combined stories. Every step was a risk. And here's the catch again. A scene where one of the producers quietly says, "If we do this wrong, it's the end of the studio." Silence. Then someone adds, "But if we do this right, the world will never be the same." And they did. They pooled their resources, created a plan that spanned several films at once, came up with a logic for character interactions, developed storylines that flowed seamlessly from one film to the next. Each character got their own world and their own story, but they all moved in the same direction, toward a big climax that was not yet on the horizon. Imagine the moment when all the directors were brought together for the first time to discuss Avengers. There were team drawings on the table, storyboards, lots of little notes, and arrows weaving stories together. There was a sense of anxiety in the room, but also an incredible energy. The energy of those who knew they were creating something historic. This transformation taught Marvel important lessons. Courage and strategy are more important than fear. Every detail matters, and true strength lies in team belief and collaboration. Every scene, every line of dialogue, every costume is not just a piece of art, but a piece of a larger puzzle that must fit together perfectly. And then comes another hook. The first Avengers trailer. The team's hearts are beating wildly. People look at the screen and see the heroes together for the first time. Laughter, fear, inspiration, anxiety. Everything is intertwined in moments that become a symbol of a new approach. Then they realized, these are no longer just movies. This is a new era of cinema. This major transformation was bold, risky, and incredibly challenging. But it made Marvel what we know it to be today. It taught us that true change comes when you dare to risk everything, when you see not just a problem, but an opportunity to create something incredible. And even today, looking at Marvel's successes, it's important to remember, without this bold step forward, without faith in a unified universe, without sleepless nights, without worries and arguments, nothing would have happened. Because true magic begins where a person is willing to give up security for the sake of a big dream. Imagine the premiere of The Avengers. The red carpet stretches out like a river of light and glitter. Cameras click, photo flashes explode all around, and fans scream and sing as if they are meeting heroes who have truly come from the screens into reality. Here, Marvel Studios is no longer a small office with the smell of coffee and paint. It is a world they have created with their own hands. But before this triumph, there was an incredible amount of fear and tension. The film, which brought together dozens of heroes from different stories, could easily fall apart. The risk was cosmic. What if the fans did not accept this universe? What if the actors could not convey the spirit of their characters? What if the investors lost patience and money? Every day was like balancing on a tightrope over an abyss. I can imagine the scenes of late-night editing, the sound of computer keys, the aching jitters of nerves, the rustling of effects reels as the Marvel team struggles to create the perfect shot. The room falls silent, with the occasional gasp. Does this still work? As everyone watches in silence as their work comes to life on screen. And here's a moment you can feel with your body. The first screening of the trailer, when fans see the characters together. The streaks of light from the projectors, the audience's reaction, laughter, whispers, exclamations of surprise. This is not just a movie. This is the culmination of all the sleepless nights, all the crises and risks, all the small victories. And then comes the biggest hook, box office. People all over the world go to the cinemas. Tickets sell out in hours. Social media discussions explode. Newspaper headlines scream. Marvel has changed cinema forever. And the Marvel team sits together, looks at the numbers and realizes they did it. They risked everything, and it worked. But this breakthrough isn't just about money or fame. It's about influence, about how stories can unite people. Children are inspired by heroes. Adults remember their own dreams. Fans create fan art, fan clubs, costume parties. Marvel has become more than just a studio, it's a cultural phenomenon. And here's another catch. The first moment in Avengers, when the heroes stand together, ready to fight. Everyone touched the screen with their hearts, because it's a scene that symbolizes their own struggle, small steps, big risks, believing in a dream. It's not just a shot. It's a metaphor for what happens when an individual or a team doesn't give up, when they turn a crisis into fuel for action. The global breakthrough taught Marvel to value the team, believe in their own ideas, and not be afraid to scale. Here are lessons that can be applied to life. Courage, faith in the team, planning bold moves, and the willingness to turn fear into energy for action. And as the world screams the names of the heroes, fans applaud in theaters, journalists write headlines, and box office records break. Marvel understands that this is just the beginning. This is the moment when a small team, once sitting in a modest office with the smell of paint and coffee, becomes a legend. They were able to prove that bold risks, faith in an idea, and work to the last drop of energy can change not only the studio, but the entire world. Because this breakthrough isn't just about comics or movies. It's about the human spirit, about what's possible even in the dark, when it seems like everyone is against you. About how true success comes to those who aren't afraid to go forward, who boldly take the first step, who turn adversity into fuel for their dreams. Imagine sitting in a dark movie theater, your heart racing, as the final battle of Infinity War unfolds on the screen. The characters you love fall, disappear, and the world seems to be crumbling. And then it's over. You leave the theater with a blank stare, trying to make sense of what happened. This isn't just a movie. This is an emotional shock. Thus began a new era for Marvel Studios. Infinity War was the culmination of a decade-long journey, but its ending left fans in disarray. The decision to leave the heroes in such a state caused a wave of outrage and sadness among the audience. Many felt betrayed because they expected good to triumph and got an open ending full of uncertainty. But Marvel couldn't just ignore these emotions. They understood that to move forward, they had to listen to their fans. And while Infinity War was a huge success, it also served as a call for change. So the next step was obvious, the finale. And while many expected it to be just a sequel, it was actually a new approach, more emotional, deeper, with a focus on the characters and their inner experiences. Marvel decided not to just end the story, but to give fans what they needed: hope, comfort, and a sense that everything made sense. And so, when the finale was released, the reaction was incredible. People cried, laughed, discussed every moment. It wasn't just a movie. It was a journey with the characters, where each of us found a piece of ourselves. But even after this success, Marvel did not stop. They understood. The world is changing, and they need to adapt. New heroes, new stories, new formats. All this became part of the studio's strategy. They began to experiment with TV series, digital platforms, interactive projects. And while not all of these moves were equally successful, Marvel kept moving forward. They learned from crises, adapted to change, and, most importantly, didn't lose touch with their audience. This stage showed that even after great achievements, it is important to remain true to your principles, listen to your fans, and not be afraid of change. Because true success is not only about great victories, but also about the ability to learn from mistakes and move forward despite difficulties. Imagine a Los Angeles morning. The sun is slowly breaking through the clouds, and the air smells of sea freshness and hot coffee. Marvel Studios is no longer a small team with a bunch of bills and distrust of critics. It is an empire that influences world culture, unites millions of people, and continues to inspire. But even in this brilliance, there is no room for complacency. Today's challenges are new heroes, new platforms, growing competition, and constant expectations from fans. The audience is used to big events, to emotional explosions, to climaxes that make the heart flutter. And each new Marvel project should be even brighter, deeper, unexpected. I can imagine a studio meeting, producers and writers sitting around a huge table on which are scattered tablets, drawings, concept art of new characters. Voices intersect. Someone suggests a bold plot twist. Someone remarks, but the fans may not accept it. And then someone adds, we don't do it for everyone to like. We do it for inspiration. Marvel is currently experimenting with series, short projects, and spin-offs, opening up new genres and styles. They are trying to balance nostalgia for old heroes with the courage to pursue new stories. And while not all of their moves are instant hits, each one is part of a larger plan, part of the evolution of the cinematic universe. The catch here is moments of uncertainty. Imagine how a studio makes decisions about new characters. Someone is skeptical about a new heroine. Another says it's risky for the brand. And yet they dare. Because Marvel has always known. True courage is not shown when everything is safe, but when you are ready to step out of your comfort zone and create something new. And here's the future. New heroes, new planets, new technologies, new stories that unite people around the world. Marvel continues to learn, adapt, listen to fans, and turn crises into energy for growth. They know the world doesn't stand still, and neither can their universe. It's also a story about a team that never forgets its beginnings. A small office, the smell of paint and coffee, the first night meetings. All this forms the soul of the studio. And this soul leads forward. Because true success is not only about box office and awards, it is the ability to inspire, to create something that will survive time, and to leave a mark in people's hearts. And here's a lesson for all of us. No matter how great your achievements, always stay true to your principles. Listen to those around you. Take risks where others fear, and turn adversity into fuel for your dreams. Marvel now looks to the future and knows the real adventures are just beginning. Because this story is not just about the studio. It's about each of us. About the courage to start small, about believing in your ideas, about how to turn sadness and disappointment into strength. Marvel teaches, even after Infinity War, even after crises and criticism, you can create something great. You can inspire millions and leave a mark on the world. And most importantly, true success comes when you are not afraid to change and move forward, despite everything, even when the darkness seems invincible. Because inside each of us is a hero. And Marvel simply reminds us of that.